city.
Okay. Hey, Jack. Rain the rain. Blaine?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Southington Town Council meeting for tonight, Monday, March 13th. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. William Diedzik.
Here.
Tom Lombardi.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Present.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Victoria Triano.
And I'm here also. Let's stand for the prayer and the flag salute, please.
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us to be compassionate and caring for each individual while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Give us wisdom and guidance. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Everyone, you may be seated. May I have a motion for the minutes, please?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on it? Additions or deletions? Deletions? Hearing nothing, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I need to
And
abstain.
one
Abstain,
abstention.
too.
So there are two abstentions, great. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the Library Building Committee presentation. Jim, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay. Council members, tonight we have an action before us to move the library construction project.
Mike, please.
Oh, your mic.
Yep. Right, you have to speak right into it.
Okay.
That way, my text won't go crazy if you speak right into it.
I heard that these were very, very sensitive, so I wasn't going to get too close. Tonight we have an action before us to move the library construction project to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a review and a favorable 824. The architect, DRA, the construction manager, Whiting Turner, the library board, the library director, and the staff, shadowed by the Library Building Committee, have all been working together since March to generate what we feel will be a building that incorporates design features, allowing for flexibility and a broad range of expanded programming. This will better meet the needs of the residents of Southington both now and in the future. We have an update from the team, and we're looking for a favorable vote to move this project tonight. Jim?
Thank you, council members. Happy to have a chance to be here again this evening. As follow-up to our previous presentation with the town council, we had 3 agenda items that we'd like to share with you this evening. Once again, a quick overview of the project. Secondly, responses to the several questions that we had at our last meeting together. I believe those have been provided to you in advance. And then lastly, Whiting Turner's review of the estimate and budget for the project. And I'll start with the first, which is an overview of the site and the building design. This is the site plan, the building to the bottom center there, Main Street along the bottom of this diagram. And we have parking to both the south to the right and to the northeast, with several outdoor elements for outdoor children's storytelling, outdoor areas for gathering, etc. This is a sampling of the building elevations rendered to give a sense of the material and coloration of the building. This has been reviewed by the working group, by the building committee. The top, which is the west elevation, is the Main Street elevation. The east elevation shown here to the bottom is that facing the northeast parking area. This is a view from the northwest, basically at the main intersection, looking along Main Street, main entrance portion of the building. Closest to us here is the community meeting space. And in terms of floor plan, the facility is a two-story construction, basically a main thoroughfare from the Main Street side through to the parking lot side, bifurcates the building. To the left of that is our community meeting spaces, to the right, the library proper, and then upstairs to the right-hand side of that main thoroughfare through the building, the upper portion of the library. Children's areas to the lower level, adult reading at this upper level. And with that brief overview, what I'd like to do is have our project manager, Ron Palillo, come join us. And this is just an overview of the questions that were posed at our last meeting.
Thank you. Good evening. As Jim said, I'm Ron Palillo. I'm the project manager for DRA on this project. And I'm just going to do a quick overview of questions that were presented. These were questions that had been considered throughout the design process, and in meeting with the working group team as well as the building committee, we've developed these consensus on this response. So in terms of the potential for expansion, yes, there are opportunities for expansion on three sides of the building, south, east, and north, ranging from 2,300 square feet up to about 5,000 square feet. The number of parking spaces, there are currently 173 parking spaces in the existing lot. In this site plan, we go down to 92 parking spaces. It is a difference, but it is well within the norms and guidelines for a building of this size, a library of this size. So actually, we would normally have about 80 parking spots. We have 92. That includes handicap as well as charging stations for electric vehicles. Question was raised about the use of the cataloging Friends area, whether or not it should be open space and available to the public. These are truly workroom spaces. They need space to store supplies, do their work, spread out their materials. It's not really conducive to making available to the public in terms of having to put supplies away, clean spaces up, et cetera. If you have questions as we go along, please feel free to interrupt. A similar question arose on the second floor in the administrative area as to whether or not those should be private offices or not and available to the public. And similarly, these being private offices for the director, assistant director, and bookkeeper, these should be individual offices as opposed to open plan. That allows for private conversations, private work that is normal for this level of office space. And it wouldn't really, again, it would not be conducive to have public using these spaces either during the workday or after. And lastly, a question came up about adding a door to the storytelling room out into the seating area. Again, that had been considered, but there are two things that came into play. One being the storage and shelving on the wall of the storytelling room facing the stacks. The other is you can see two boxes on that wall. Those are the only spaces we have for manipulative PlayStations, which are toys designed to develop motor skills and cognitive abilities in young children. And because of storage and windows for the collection, we really don't have the space to add a door. See, so that wraps up the questions, unless you have any that you'd like to ask at this point. If not, I
Can I
will,
ask a-
please.
Thank you. Thanks for giving the responses to the questions that we had last time.
You're welcome.
So for the expansion,
Could you speak into the mic, please,
Sure,
Val?
yep.
Because we'd all like to.
for the expansion, would that be something that it might just be one area would be done at one time, or would that be something that all three areas can be done? I mean, I'm assuming with,
It would most likely be done sequentially, depending on how much the library wanted to expand, how much square foot they wanted to add. Operationally, it would make sense to do one at a time. It may be possible to do them simultaneously, but what we're showing, the intent of what we're showing is 3 possible locations that could be used.
could possibly be used?
Yes.
Right. So there would be, I mean, obviously, it would be the cost at the time. for-
How
for
much
the- How much
space?
space would it give you? What's the
Right.
cost?
How much
And
space,
and the
cost.
disruption, right?
Exactly, the
Yeah.
logistics of doing so.
Okay. And then the,
Before you get off that,
Yeah,
you mind if I,
go ahead.
is that okay? 'Cause related to that. Just more of a comment. I'm just concerned that here we are talking about a brand-new library, and we're looking at possible spaces to expand before we even build the current library. So, again, it goes back to, I know, you know, we've talked about this quite a bit, but, you know, it's just, like I said, it's more of a statement, it's just a concern, again, that we're actually talking about the possibility to expand in the future when we haven't changed this library in how many years? And now's the time, and we're thinking about expansion.
Yeah, Jim would
Well,
like to
we're
address
actually not thinking about expansion, by the way.
that. Yeah.
The question was asked if they could expand the library. And actually, this expansion is not really part of the scope of what we hired them for. So what they did was they went back and said, hypothetically, if we were going to be hired to add on to the library, where could we add on? And how much could we do it? So don't think that we don't think that the library is sized appropriately now. The question was, could you add on to it? And the answer is, we could.
And who asked the question, Jim?
I don't recall, but it came from the council, I thought.
I had asked that question.
Okay. So Val asked the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and the community room.
Yes.
What is the maximum capacity? I know you answered this last time.
271 people comfortably. By code, we can allow up to, I think, 300.
So that's such a, I mean, that's something that we were really looking towards having as a benefit for the town, but now, but the parking is going to be an issue. Right, so if we have a program that 200 people come, where are they going to park?
That's an issue that would be prevalent even if we kept the parking spaces the same. Did you?
Yeah, I have. In terms of parking guidelines for space like that, it's often one for every 4 seats available. So it's not as if 200 people are showing up and you have 200 cars as the probable loading for
Right,
it.
right.
The 92 that we have available, based on guidelines for libraries of this size, is adequate
Is the
and
80,
sufficient for
right?
this.
Is
Excuse me?
the 80 parking spaces
That
for
is correct, but
24,000 square feet?
We have 92 available.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
All set, Val?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Well, first of all, before we get off the parking, I guess, I think we've all been to programs at the library. I've seen that parking lot pretty close to capacity, depending on what's going on there. So it's concerning. I know there's 92, you only need to provide 80, but you have 173 now. So have you considered looking at just maybe some more paving in some of the green areas adjacent to the parking lot? And what were your thoughts about expanding some of the paving?
Well, I'll start by saying that additional parking was because we acquired that property, so it really wasn't designed as parking for the library. So fortunately, we have way more parking than we would require for what we have now.
Yeah.
We also discussed that we have across the street the high school, or the...
The Darnowski.
Yes, I'm sorry. And again, it would be rare, it would be on minimal occasions where you'd have that many people at the library. But you're correct, you would get that kind of volume. So there's room on the lot to make it expanded parking lot, but I don't think that the dollars and cents for it would make sense, especially when our goal was to get the biggest library possible.
Okay. All right, and then the other question I had that I appreciate you answering, I still have concerns about the children, the storytelling and craft area for the little ones. And I hear what you're saying about what's on the wall, but can't that door shift to the other wall where it can expand the library and then put everything that's on that wall now where the door is? Again, it's just to, should you have a program that exceeds that capacity, give you some flex space.
What about a pocket door? Can we investigate a pocket door?
Or the barn door, right? Like a barn door?
Oh, pocket door,
Pocket
because
door.
I didn't realize we had stuff on both walls. So again, this was an idea that I had just had recently, and didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about it.
I'm not sure of the application of a pocket door as something that might be considered accessible, so that's something we could explore with you, but certainly the issue of a door in that location was something that both the working group and the building committee had explored and had your same question.
Right.
As we explored kind of all the other issues that came to bear on it, as Ron suggested, it's everything from wall-mounted manipulatives in the area for the young children to on the side for the storytelling area, wall-mounted monitors, those types of projection equipment. It's like all things in design. It's consider all the options, try to bring forward the best solution. And right now, the building committee feels this is the best solution for that area.
And what is, maybe you know, Jim, I don't know. What is the capacity in that storytelling room again?
It's roughly 50
It
people.
was
50 people. Okay.
It is 636 square feet, just for reference.
630. I mean, even the manipulatives, like maybe they could be not wall-mounted, but have manipulatives. If that's part of the factor, I'm not familiar with what that type of door that you're mentioning is, but.
I don't even know if they can do it with load and structure, but I think that we should look harder at that. I agree with you. So
Okay.
we'll continue to talk about that.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the members of the council? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay, just, if you could just wait a
Just
second.
one, I'm sorry, just from my perspective, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, starting with Jim for answering some of the questions that I had since the last meeting. Councilperson Morelli, and I appreciate you guys going back. You know, we're talking about a public space, especially on the shared spaces. I think it's important that the community sees that we're doing everything that we can to maximize the potential for community to access the space that they're paying for. So I appreciate you doing that, and I also wanted to thank the town manager for spending some time. I did have an opportunity to deep dive and walk through the library and got a very good appreciation for the spaces that these eventually will be using that are in the existing library today. And he went through a deep dive and showed me all of the things that are currently being worked on in those dedicated spaces, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see the work that, the amount of work that will go into those areas. So I just want to say thank you for double checking on those things as well.
Thank you. The next segment, Tim will go through a review of the estimate and the budget. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. How is everybody? Following up from the last time I was here on the construction cost estimate, where we talked about kind of the higher level of detail of some of the numbers. Today, I just want to kind of take it a step back and talk about just kind of where we are. And I think the question has been asked by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. How confident are we in these numbers as we look forward to kind of take the next step? And my answer to that is an explanation of how we got to these numbers to begin with. So first off, you know, we've been engaged since this was a sketch on the back of a napkin. We've had a lot of different input from a lot of different people at various stages of the design. We helped steer the design to match your budget, which I think was one of the biggest challenges throughout this pre-construction effort.
That's right.
So there have been multiple estimating checkpoints. I just want to reiterate that we've checked these numbers through and through again. We've done real-time cost estimating, and what that means is as these ideas come up, we're back checking the estimate throughout those major milestones of an estimate deliverable. So for that reason, as things come up, we can sort of ratchet things back or say, yes, this is within the budget. That's been ongoing since we've been hired. We've had vendor feedback. You know, material pricing is very volatile right now. We've been checking in with the vendors, being the electrical manufacturers, air handlers, elevators, siding manufacturers, you name it. We're going direct to the source to make sure that these prices that we're showing on the screen have been reflected into the numbers that we've presented. And then the last thing is, you know, is this project comparable to other 20 to 30,000 square foot libraries that we've built throughout the country? And that's been a hard question to answer lately with the amount of escalation and price volatility throughout the country. But when we benchmark this to a lot of our other projects, from a dollar per square foot standpoint, we're in that range. We're in that $500 square foot range to build it. There's some variables here, you know, kind of you have to demolish an existing building. That's $500,000 that most other projects, brand new libraries, may not have to incur. So for all those reasons, the level of accuracy and level of confidence, in my opinion, at this moment, are pretty high. We talked about the schedule. We talked about what was driving the schedule at the last meeting, and thankfully we have finalized the order, and we're releasing that switchgear, which is about a 54-week, almost a year lead time from the time we put the paperwork in to the time we see it on site. And that sounds crazy, but that's reality. That's where we are right now. All the other items, such as the air handlers, the elevator, the light fixtures, the structural steel, the framing members, you know, we've got a good handle on that, and we have a good path to get these released in a timely manner. So again, I think from an accuracy and a confidence level in the schedule, I think we're there as well. I want to just remind you of the alternates, you know, as we kind of take the drawings from where they are in a 50% construction document stage to the very next step, which hopefully will be going out to bid and getting real prices from the bid market. This is going to be, you know, an important part of how we address the alternates. Some of them can be add alternates, some of them can be deduct alternates, but we have a good list going. It's almost $300,000 of deduct alternates that we're considering. So why would we consider that? Well, I think the reality is, you know, we do have some challenges, we have some opportunities, and just to talk about a few of these, this is where we are. I mean, starting on the challenges side, you know, it is a very overwhelmed bid market, and I'm not talking about the amount of workers out there who are too busy to come to this project. I'm talking just simply about the estimators who have to bid this project. There's a lot out there to bid. There's large projects out there to bid. We're in this project of the era of this mega project where everything just takes more time to bid. So the contractors are strained in their offices. Who can even submit a bid on this job? That's a challenge, right? We've been doing everything we can to pump people up and get them excited about this project. We have a nice niche group of contractors. This isn't a large project. It isn't a small project. It's a great medium-sized project for contractors to get excited about. Another challenge, as we all know, is material procurement. I mean, every day we're getting more information about what's causing us trouble throughout the industry. So we're very close to the source on that. Labor force shortages, this isn't the first time you've heard this. Not only is there a labor shortage, there's a skills gap shortage, right? So when the average age of the construction worker, 1 in 4 is over 55, that's a problem. We need to do a better job getting younger folks in this industry. That will take time. At this moment in time, there is a shortage of workforce. And then there's a pricing volatility. As great as it is that the roofing prices have dropped 3% in the last 3 months, the air handlers just went up 8%. Copper is 5% plus 5% and continuing to rise. So how have we combated that? Well, the electrical engineers have designed aluminum conductors instead of copper conductors. So we're staying ahead of these challenges as we learn them in real time. So despite all that doom and gloom, on the opportunity end of this is a really exciting project. It's a very efficient project. The parking is not terrible. The people aren't getting bussed in. You can drive around all 4 sides of this building if you're a worker with an aerial lift. It's a square rectangular building. There's no crazy articulation, no curves. So for all those reasons, I think this is a nice project for people to bid. People will get excited about it. The pricing should reflect that. Next few questions are, what happens if bids come in over budget? What do we do? Well, let's talk about if they come in under budget first, because I think that's what we've been all secretly hoping and in strategizing for is bids come in under. What do you do, right? We have a budget. We want to maximize that program. Well, throughout the schematic design and design development stages, we've had cost drivers that we've kind of plucked out of the project, but some of them are very easily added back in, and you can increase your program very easily if we come in under budget. So we'd be in a great position to be able to use the dollars in the absolute best possible scenario when we get bids in.
Madam Chair, can I ask a quick question about the bid process?
Yeah, excuse us,
Really
yes,
quick.
go
So
ahead.
I just have a question about that. So you'll likely know your bids on the front end of the project, right? Like very quickly?
Yeah, I'd say by the end of, let me see, we'd get documents May 1 by the end of May.
So you'll have some lead time and flexibility on if we get low bids to do additional items. It's not going to come in the fourth quarter of the project, right? So it'll
Correct.
be on the front
Yeah.
end.
It's a great conversation to have. Hey, we have an extra X amount of dollars. What are we going to do with it, right? How are we going to
Right.
reinvest into this project?
Good.
That's great.
And then on the flip side of that, okay, if things come in over, well, we have 300,000 in deduct alternates, in fact, that we could peel back from the project if the bids come in over. Another nice thing about this project is there's flexibility in this. A lot of projects today are designed around a sole source, curtain wall system, or the envelope has to look a certain way, or it has to be a certain manufacturer. There's actually built-in flexibility in the design. DRA's done a great job to be able to easily swap materials in and out if we have a larger problem that we have to deal with additional value engineering sort of after the bids go out. Again, I don't anticipate that, but we're in a good position to be able to do that. And then last thing here, I really just want to, can't state the importance of this. We've seen escalation range from 5% to 15% in the last 2 years. And I know it's kind of an oddity, but in reality, 3 to 7% is normal. And if you say, what does that mean for our project? If you waited 1 year, this project exact same project to build in a year from now would cost you about $1 million more. So for all the reasons that we talked about, the pros, cons, now is a great time to go out to bid. We're trying to get to a recession and drive some of these costs down, but it's not working. Everything is still on the rise. So, I think from what our latest economist said is that second to third quarter is when we should see about a little bit of a dip, and then it's going to hit the 4 to 6% as we see here. So that's all I had. I know you want to talk about next steps.
Any questions at this point?
Just a couple questions. So the bid alternates, are those in any order of priority? Or it's just
Could you
a
speak in the
listing?
mic, please? I can't
I'm
hear
right
you.
in the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just couldn't
Why
hear
it's
you.
not?
Thank you.
Those are not in order of priority.
They're just a listing.
Correct.
Yeah. And it would depend on, so if it's over budget, it would depend on, you would just have to kind of pick and choose.
Correct. It'd be a
What would go
conversation
away.
at the library building committee,
Yeah.
and we would decide which ones we have to select.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for the presentation. Can you give us just a general thumb in the wind? How do you feel about the overall ability to come on budget? I mean, you've given us a list here. You've showed us that you have levers either way,
Sure.
plus and minus. What's your gut tell you about, are you
Yeah.
excited that we're at the point we're at and that we can hit the
I'm very excited.
the budget that we set?
It's rare to have a project come in under budget today. That's just where we are. But this one, I think, is going to come in very close. One important thing to note is that within the numbers that I shared on that first slide, we have a cushion baked in. I know you can't see these numbers, but within the fifth and sixth line items down, we have two line items. One's called escalation contingency. That's basically from the time we hit send on the very last estimate till the time we get bids in at the end of May. Escalation will happen, right? That's about $128,000. That's in this number, right? We banked that already. The other one is design contingency. That's $274,000. And what that means is from the last checkpoint of design to the time that we go out to bid, we expect some things change. Happily, that's like 5 items on a very, small list. So all of which haven't cost anything yet. So we've kept the budget in check. We've gotten real-time feedback. It's a long answer to your question, but it's a very high level of confidence.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you so much. Chris?
Yeah, just to follow up from Paul's question, the fundraising that you're looking, that the community's looking, the $700,000 from the capital campaign, when you're talking about the budget, is that factoring in the money that potentially the $700,000 that the capital campaign is looking to raise?
Yeah, we tried to show the second line item from the bottom that shows that $700,000 reduction of the budget,
Oh, I see
which
it.
gets you
I see
to
it
about
now.
a
Yep, it's underneath.
$17.1
Yep.
million cost.
Okay. So that's assuming that we get $700,000 from the fundraising.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
And if we don't, we have the bid alternatives to look at.
Yeah, okay.
Of which there already exists, how much?
was the bid
Oh,
alternate total?
350. I think.
About 3, so about half of it's already,
Yeah, I
so we need about half of that 700 raised.
Yeah, I believe they already have with the capital
No, we
it's
need
a
it
previous campaign was about $350,000.
Okay.
Anything above 350 is positive.
But we don't want them to stop at 700. We've already told them that.
First of all, thank you so much for coming tonight and going over this. I want to thank the Library Building Committee for the hours and hours that have been spent. Jim, thank you so much for your leadership, and Mark, for you and your staff who have worked alongside the members of this council and to the public. I know there were times when there was some controversy, and there still may be some. But when we're looking at the budget that we have right now facing us, we're in the process of going through our budgets. We're seeing a stark increase that may reflect on the voters of, the property owners of this community. I am so happy to hear your report tonight and get some closure on this and feel comfortable and actually excited to see this library in place on time. Hopefully, we'll see it on time and on or under budget. So I'm very excited about that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the members of the building committee. I know Paul is there, and also too, and everybody. Thank you so much. And if there's no other comment, I would like to move on. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We will be taking action. The council, so let's go on to the councilperson's communication. I would like to just set this off if I can, because I need to apologize to our Historical Society. I had planned on going to the last meeting that they had. Unfortunately, it was the same time when the Board of Finance had their public hearing, and I really had to set priorities, and I had to go to that. But Historical Society, I'm looking forward to coming to your next meeting, and I'm hoping to be there, and hopefully there won't be a conflict in that. So I wanted to get that out and apologize, because I was really looking forward to it. But let's move on. Councilperson's communication. Can I have anybody speak? What's going on? Persons? Yeah, Chris?
Got a couple.
Okay.
First of all, I know Paul and Vicky, myself and Jack attended last Friday. The governor was here in town with Senator Blumenthal, talking about the wrong way driving, the upgrades they've made for that on the on-ramp, or the off-ramp, I should say, near Kennedy Middle School. So I want to thank the governor and senator for coming to town. Vicki, I want to thank you for such a warm greeting on behalf of the town of Southington to the governor and
Well,
senator.
it's always nice when he comes.
It really is nice to see him come and a great turnout for that. And of course, very positive impact, hopefully, that's being displayed here in Southington, as well as other communities. The Board of Finance that you mentioned, the hearing that you mentioned, I just want to thank residents that came out. Last year, I think there were 0 residents that came out.
That's true.
So it was great to see so many residents come out and speak passionately at that meeting that was held at DePaulo 1 week ago tonight. So thank you to all the members of the public that came out for that. And finally, I just want to give, I serve on STEPS. Just an update, Vicki, I thought it would be timely to share. I know you met with Megan Albanese as
Yes.
well. Just to share a little bit about our new program through the police department. It's called C3, Communities Creating Change, and it's a prevention curriculum that was developed by our own Southington STEPS, as well as the police department. So right now, we have 9 police officers that have been trained, and they're considered asset building officers. They are connected with each of the elementary schools, 8 elementary schools, plus Southington Catholic. Each school has their own officer, so they're trying to create that positive community connection with the officer and the school, showing law enforcement is proactive with our community as well. The lessons are taught, and this is important for everyone to understand, on the officers' days off. They're not taught when they are maybe doing other responsibilities for the town of Southington. There are several grants that fund how the officers are paid. The first one is from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, and then Prevention in Connecticut Communities. So we have over $100,000 in those grants to help fund this. So again, it's not taking away
It's very
anything that the
important to
police
hear
would do, with their day-to-day operations, but on their day off, similar to the way they do overtime with road work and all those types of projects. So it really is a great curriculum. Other communities have expressed
It's
interest.
grant-funded, and I think that's very important, especially at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very worthwhile project, and I'm very glad. And they're going to be funded, I believe, for the next year and a half, and then we'll see if they can get more funding.
Right.
So it's not in our budget, it's funded through grants, and it's nice to see it's becoming very successful. I saw a few pictures in the paper,
Absolutely.
actually. It was very-
And like I said, it's great that other communities are now looking to see Southington's lead with their own police departments in those communities. So just a positive update that I wanted to share with everyone.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Very good. Who else has something?
Anybody else down there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. So the Southington Reads program is March 21st at the AquaTurf, and it coincides with Women's History Month, which is great because the author is a woman, Elise Hooper, who is a historical fiction author, and her books center on the lives of extraordinary but overlooked historical women. So it's a nice fit with Women's History Month. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the AquaTurf, to the Calvinese Foundation, the Friends of the Library. They sponsor Southington Reads, which is great. And if people are still interested, they can register at the library in person or at the library online. And that's, so that's Monday, or I'm sorry, it's not Monday, it's March 21st at 7 PM at the AquaTurf. The Veterans Coffee Hour is next Monday, and that's being hosted by our State Rep Chris Poulos, along with the Commissioner of the Department of Veteran Affairs that will be there. So I think that's at Callender House, and that's at 10 a.m. So I think that will be an excellent session. And Madam Chair, I just wanted to ask if you've been able to speak with Bob Hammersley on the affordable housing.
Just for a few minutes, but I know that they are working on things there, and we should be hearing from them soon. I think he wants to get his view and stuff together. We have a meeting of the chairs, so we'll be doing that, and that will be one of the issues that we will discuss at that time.
Is the meeting of the chairs, is that in March?
Yes,
Okay, great, thank you.
I think it's the 28th, Madam
the
Chair.
28th, yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Madam-
Yes, go ahead, Jack.
Madam Chair, thank you. So I also attended the public hearing, which was nice to see people speak, and I want to thank all the residents that came out and spoke because it's important, and there's many members of the council there as well, so we're definitely listening to the residents. I also last week attended a couple of the workshops the Board of Finance held, and I just want to thank everyone for all their hard work in town, because again, it's a lot of work this time of year to get the budgets together, especially with the cost of everything kind of going in all different directions. So it's very difficult to come in with a very precise number that doesn't have any fluff in it. At a few council meetings, I've mentioned, again, my concerns on some of our bidding practices. And some of the concerns were, again, re-looking at some of our bid documents and refining it to what the town currently needs. Another item that, I didn't like the most was when all the plow contracts were awarded, we awarded all of them. And I get it, we have to give the town staff the flexibility, but there's not real guidelines on there for the list of equipment or what model years they should be based on efficiencies and so forth. So I created, I'm going to pass these out, but I met with Mark Shota as well, and I discussed some of my concerns, like you guys suggested me to do, and I'm going to read this into the record and take a copy as well. This is a request for the formation of a procurement committee. Dear council members, we are obligated as elected officials to make the most of every dollar of our tax revenue. This has been a guiding principle over the last few weeks as I've reviewed the budget and attended several meetings on the 23-24 budget. We are in a difficult place facing a large tax increase that will affect our residents, businesses, and especially those on a fixed income. Faced with those circumstances and further to the concerns I have raised on the record recently regarding Southington's current competitive bidding practices, I'm informing you of my intent to propose the formation of a committee to modernize and improve Southington's procurement operations and formally request your support in this matter. The proposed committee should have representation from the Town Council, Board of Finance, Board of Education, Town Manager's Office, Finance Department, Public Works, Board of Education, Operations Department, and Corporate Counsel. It would work across all departments to ensure documents and process are in good order and to enable competitive bidding for any goods and services where appropriate, even if it's not our current practice. This first action of the committee should be to work with the Town Manager's Office to implement an online procurement portal accessible through southington.org. This portal should host all bid documents, requests, and responses, making it easier for the prospective vendors and town staff to manage the process. It will also make the process more transparent by providing taxpayers access to current and historical bid information, which is stated priority for all of the town council members. I look forward to your support this evening. So I'm also going to submit this in the record. This is a company that the town of Wallingford uses. I think it's called Procureware in the city of Waterbury. So they have an online portal that the documents are submitted into, and then they can track who's seeing them, making sure that we're getting vendors, active in that. And it also streamlines it that vendors could select what categories that they will get notified for bids. It will also allow our town staff to kind of work together that some of the things that we currently don't put out to bid because it doesn't reach a certain dollar amount will allow us to leverage that technology to put more items out to bid, which will save us thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So I hope I can count on the entire council's support. I know you guys encouraged me in the past to work with Mark Shota, so I look forward to creating this committee and working with all town staff and departments to try to streamline this and watch, again, our dollars and stretch every dollar that we possibly can.
Jack, thank you for all your work on this, and I know you have spoken about it prior, on the record and everything. So now this is a formal request. And so what I'd like to do is, Mark, I would like you very much to look at this request in depth, get in touch with the different department heads on this, and come back with a report on what your feelings are concerning the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we can have an on-the-record discussion on it, and we can decide what we want to do from then on. I think you make some very good points, and I think we need to address them. And so if that's all right, Mr.
That's fine.
Soria?
I did have a long conversation with the councilman, and I'm open to any suggestions that makes our process smoother and brings more people into the bidding process, so we're on the same
Excellent.
page on that.
Thank you, Jack, very, very much.
Thank
We're looking forward, we'll hopefully in the next meeting or two or whatever, that we can.
If I could have the second meeting, because Madam Chair, I won't be around.
Oh, I remember spring break, so, spring training. So we will definitely have a discussion on the record, and then we can figure out what parameters we're comfortable with, and we move forward together as a group. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Jack, very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other councilperson's communication? Anybody? Hearing none, let's move on. So report of special committees, please. Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had our meeting on the 1st of March. Some items of note. Reminder, once again, it's time to change out your transfer station stickers. The stickers for 2022 are good until the end of the month, but come April 1, if you show up with a 2022 sticker, you won't be able to use the transfer station. On the 1st of April and the 15th of April, those Saturdays, you can get new tickets right at the Highway Department on Mulberry Street. They'll be open during business hours on those two Saturdays, in case you go there those 2 days. I believe the 8th can't happen because that's Easter weekend, and the transfer station will be closed. And then they're open for their regular hours each day from 8 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, to get tickets, to get their stickers at their regular hours. There was some issues with a detention pond on February Drive. Ms. Turnquist reported that part of the easement to access the detention pond on February Drive is blocked. The homeowner where the easement is not blocked is very concerned about property damage. Therefore, the Highway Department is going to clean the pond in-house with hand tools. No machinery will be brought in, so that to help out that neighbor and get that detention pond cleared. The J.C.'s purchased a new playscape for J.C. Park on Union Street, so the Highway Department, within the next couple of weeks, is going to put that together and have it installed at the park. It's a cool little park over on Union Street, J.C.
Yeah,
Park.
it's
It's a cool
great.
place for that neighborhood and for everyone. Anyone from Southington can use it. We got the schedule for the recreation pool construction, and they're expecting to be completed with the project in October of 2023. So we all know next year, Rec Park is going to be closed. So, but Memorial Park, sorry, not the whole park, but the pool will be closed. So Memorial Park will be open. As I said, 10/26/23 is the expected completion date. We had a brief discussion about the Route 10, 322 construction project. I think we made it pretty clear, even on Public Works, as we did at the town council meeting, that we're all pretty disappointed in that project. So we're going to be following it very, very closely to ensure that they have it on record that we're not real happy with the way they're proceeding with this project. So more to follow on that. And Doug Arndt had asked our support in signing some letters to Mr. Larson and Senator Blumenthal, and Senator Murphy, Congressman Larson, with regards for some assistance for the manganese problem that we have in town. So we discussed it, and I signed some letters to our federal politicians to give us some assistance and pass us some grant money to help curb the cost of the manganese issue that we have in town. And that's all I had. I'm not sure, Chris, if I'm missing anything, or Paul.
You didn't miss anything, but I just want to add have we, I guess, Mark, I'll turn to you. Have we heard from anyone at the state about the bridge? Because we talked about it at Public Works, but they didn't officially come, and we really made it clear.
Yes, in fact, we just got an email on it that's going to be on the next Public Works agenda. They wanted some specific feedback. It went to Annette, and then a copy came to me. I told her to put it on the next Public Works agenda, so they can talk about, they want specific feedback on it. So it goes to Public Works first, and then it would come to you guys.
So they're being responsive at least to the
Yeah,
concerns raised from
the
council.
response was simply, can you give us some specifics of what you'd rather see in the project? So that starts with Public Works.
At
then-
bridge.
Yeah, basically, why are we getting rid of a bridge?
Right, I mean, that was pretty clear, but, okay. we'll
But that's
give-
okay, so in the next couple of weeks before our April meeting, which is the first Wednesday in April, if anyone on the council has anything specific,
Yeah.
send it to the chair and she can forward it to me or send it to me.
Yeah.
Just copy Annette on it so we can kind of create a list.
Right.
And let them know how we failed.
I think that's very important because there have been questions, and so let's get them answered.
Okay, thank
Madam
you.
Chair, is it possible, Mark, we could maybe get a shared document that people, an Excel spreadsheet or something that we might have staff make that says, hey, if you have a suggestion that you want brought up at the Public Works meeting, somebody can just go to the document and just type in, suggestion 1, suggestion 2.
We could do that, or you could just simply email. It's a lot easier, but we could do the rubric like we do for the budget if you want something like that.
Yeah, that might be easy. That's.
You don't want to do that tonight? You don't want to, after the meeting tonight?
Oh,
Create a shared Excel document?
And then, Madam Chair, if I may, just adding, expanding a little bit, one comment you made was about a clean out that the town is doing at
Library Drive.
an engineered catch base, an engineered waterway that's meant to hold water. These are typically found in developments. And so, if everybody remembers, we did do a contract on the maintenance of these. But I just want to stress, if you are a homeowner or a property owner in town, and you should familiarize yourself with your property, look at your property maps before you install permanent structures or trees, because it's not uncommon for properties to have easements. And in this case, we do have a little bit of an inefficiency because where there's a town easement, structures were put up. And the structures are preventing us from actually accessing.
The trucks and. yeah.
Right, so this creates either an inefficiency, or in some cases, we may have to remove the structures or the trees, or, for example, it could be sprinkler systems by the road. There's often an easement there if we're doing a sidewalk or repairing a sidewalk. So just as a reminder to everybody, before you install permanent things, check your maps, make sure you know where there may or may not be an easement, and as always, call the engineering department if you have a question about if you can put something there or not, what the liability is.
Because we will.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Open space.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just 3 quick items. Open Space Committee talked about developing a policy on maintenance of town spaces where we're promoting farming. So we look to have a suggestion for our next meeting that we could hopefully take action on. We talked about the proposal with Bradley Mountain Goats to bring the goats to Crescent Lake and clear an area of invasives there. We met with the assistant town planner, and we'll have more information on when that is in case there's people who want to see the goats chewing away at the invasive species there and helping clean things up. And then the last thing, just a shout out to Jen Klock, who's leading a volunteer effort for a donation with Mark Lovely for a plaque on the Curtis property. And just wanted to say thank you to Christina Volpe and Phil Wooding, who are doing a little bit of historical research on that property, because for those of you who do keep in touch with open spaces, there is some remnants of a structure there where there's some folklore about, there's some lore about what role it may have played in the abolition of slavery. And so we're really trying to dig in there. Christina and Phil are really doing a great job digging in to look for exactly what is it that can be claimed and what can't be claimed. And then we're going to put a little piece together. Jen's working on that with the Historical Society to put a little piece together that Mr. Lovely is talking about donating to memorialize that area for people who want to learn a little bit about that.
That's wonderful. Great.
Chris, Jim, anything else?
No, they have done extensive work, so thank you. Yep.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Apple Harvest Festival.
Just a couple updates, good news. We had a meeting on Wednesday, March 8th. So far, we have 20 vendors already submitting applications for the 2023 festival. 5 of those are new vendors, which is always great to welcome new people to the festival. And we have 11 arts and crafts vendors so far to date. Again, it's right in line with where we should be at this point in the year. We officially approved our beverage vendor for this year. It'll be very close, but the award went to Coca-Cola for this year. We approved our tent vendor. This year it will be Mad Tents, based out of Wallingford. We approved our grounds cleaning vendor, which is Two Owls. Avery Cleaners. They slightly edged out Two Owls. But again, to the whole bidding conversation earlier, this is why we have to go out to bid, because it keeps the process competitive,
Yeah.
ultimately to save money for the festival. And then we approved our refuge dumpster vendor, CWPN. So we also approved our festival theme, which is Savor the Flavors of the Fall. So,
Savor the flavors.
yes.
Very nice.
So overall, were we able to save some money through the bidding process?
Yeah, so for example.
That's great.
For example, like Two Owls, their bid was $7,537, which is who we had last year. Avery was $6,378. So you know what I mean, with all these bids, Coke and Pepsi, $400 difference. I mean, it's
Yeah.
neck and neck, but when you look at the bids,
Process is working. Good.
it is
Thanks.
working.
Appreciate
You're
that,
welcome.
Chris.
Very good. Anything else for Apple Harvest Festival? Okay, Sewer Department.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to announce that our Plantsville pump station was submitted by Tie and Bond to the New England Water Environment Association and the New York Water Association for an award. If you're not familiar where the pump station is, it's behind where Volpe's is right now. The majority of it's underground. But I think I can speak for Val in this, where we're very proud of our, Kari and his staff and Jim Grappone as the engineer. We keep winning awards, and the award ceremony will be in June in Saratoga, so it's right in line for race season, so hopefully.
Putting in for it, are we?
But other than that, it was a quick meeting.
Anything else from the committee? Is that it, Val? Okay, very good. Any questions? No? Very good. Let's move on. Item number 6, the town manager's report.
Evening, Madam Chair. The first item I have is the neglected cemetery resolution. Some of you may recall, back in 2020, I applied for this grant with our historian, Phil Wooding. We have one cemetery which is the responsibility of the town of Southington, the Marion Burial Ground. Some of you probably don't even know where that is, but it's off of Marion Avenue, and it's a relatively small cemetery, but under state statute, that when a cemetery no longer has anybody who takes care of it, it reverts back to the town, just like a lot of other things. In this particular case, Phil Wooding, and you all know Phil, he wanted to see if there's anything we can do. He was working with a family member, one of the last Merrimans, who actually, he passed away last December 21. He was actually doing a lot of the work there. That being said, we applied for and received a grant of $3,000, which we did a good section of it, which is to obviously raise the tombstones. Most of them were knocked down, and Phil worked with our vendor and did a nice job with that. That's a long way to say that I'm asking for your permission to apply for another grant. We're now in the second round of the grants. I'm looking for another $3,000. And not to say we'll be able to finish the cemetery, but it'll go a long way. So I would need you to approve that resolution tonight. Any questions? I'd be happy to
Yeah,
answer.
any questions for the town manager on this?
Just quickly, Mark, I had looked into this, so the grants are small, right? They're like between
they
2 and
don't-
4,000, is that?
Yeah, they don't really, they're not big, but it depends on how many apply for it.
Right.
It could be anywhere from $1,000 up to $4,000. We're looking for the maximum, which is $3,000 to $4,000. We have to put together what we plan on doing, and I think we have a good shot because we already spent on it already. We did about $3,000 worth of work. That being said, the more towns that apply for it, the less money there is, so.
Right, because it sounds like that the revenue for the grants is from the fees on death certificates throughout. So it just depends on how many fees come in, right? How many
That's a
towns
nice way to
apply.
say it.
Well, it's amazing when you really look into
Yeah,
it, right?
it's, It is, but it's one of those things, and I understand somebody has to take responsibility for it. But more and more, these older cemeteries, these trusts people put in, the trusts dry up. And then
Right.
the fact of the matter is, a lot of these cemeteries over the next few years, we have another one we're currently working with, the Baptist Church up on West Street, the cemetery off of West Center Street. I think it's called the Whitman or Whiteman Cemetery. That's another one. But as time goes on, less and less money is available to maintain these cemeteries, so the town will be taking more and more responsibility for it.
Is the town responsible for that one yet?
Not yet.
Not yet, but possibly close, right?
Possibly.
Yeah, amazing. No, I
Any other
think it's, I think it's interesting that they at least put out these grants that. there's
Normally,
something
it's an
available.
oddity that you need a resolution for a grant under $10,000, but this specific one requires a resolution from the council.
Do they come back to you and check on how you use the funds, or they just?
We have to submit a report on what we did. Have anyone from that department come and check on us? I don't think so, but they would never question Phil Wooding on anything, so.
Right. Well, thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark. Moving on, Town Attorney's report.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to state that I have no report to provide to the council tonight.
Please don't feel any pressure, that's fine.
No news is
So
good
much.
news when it comes to law.
That's right, that's right. Thank you so much, Lou, we appreciate that. We're going to open it up to public communication. Please, members of the public, feel free to come on up, give your name and address, and we're here to listen. So if there's anyone who wants to come forward, please do so.
Susan Zabahansky, Working Street. I'm here again. Finance is concerning me. I did see the Board of Finance meeting. I didn't have time to go to the public hearing, but I was shocked by the people who came and spoke begging for tax increases in the town of Southington. I think many of these people, when I was listening to what they had to say, were extremely misinformed. I think some of that had to do with the superintendent's meeting, where he didn't really provide all the information I think was necessary for the public to make an informed decision, and I think that was something that should have never have happened, in my personal opinion. If you want to educate people, I think you should educate them on all things related to the budget, like the fact that he got a substantial raise prior to the budget even being set. I understand, these things like the teachers' contractual raises come up prior to the budget being set, and I think that's something that the town needs to look into to change, so that we don't get to situations where taxpayers are potentially facing a 2 mill rate point increase. I heard some residents say that would only amount to $45 per taxpayer in this town. That is not true at all. For the average taxpayer, I would think that would be about $700 a year, based on the average size home in Southington, which you guys have heard Jensen's people come before you by the droves about a $45 a month increase in their land rent usage, and saying that that's going to be a struggle for them. So you add that on top of another $70 a month for tax increases for everything. So, we've been told that this budget is bare bones, and that there's been no new programming and no new projects. But when I looked at the programming at the Southington High School, just as one example, some of the curriculum there includes bake shop, fabric creations, interior design, food production, clothing creations, food for fitness and health, culinary arts, pop culture, text to film, pottery, jewelry, sports and entertainment marketing, sculpture 3D, musician tech, weather, orchestra. There's all the band stuff on top of that, astronomy, introduction to acting, theater and film studies, war and literature, ukulele and guitar that was just added to the curriculum this year. I kind of struggle when I see what I consider to be extracurricular things, added in, and then we're told that we're operating on a bare bones budget. There's a lot of fluff in the curriculum at the high school. And while it's nice when you're facing a 2 mill rate point, and that's just this year, increase, I think there's many things that we can look at to levy that budget down. Another being psychologists at the high school that were not supposed to be passed forward into this year's budget. Psychology is something that should be taken care of by the medical field. You could have someone in place for trauma situations, but that was, I think, to the tune of $1 million. So I think we really need to dove through. I went upstairs to use the bathroom here. Every light on is on up there. Why can't those be on sensors? We're talking about electrical rates going up. I live near JFK. The lights in that gymnasium are on near 24/7, and they're bright. Why can't that be on some kind of, thing? I mean, everybody has to cut their budget, and we really need to be looking, instead of telling me that we're on bare bones, when I see the waste. I mean, there's town officials who take cars home who don't need them at their home. They have never, that should, if you're on duty, that's one thing, and you have to potentially make a call, but there's several people who take cars home that sit in their driveway who don't take calls. So there's a lot that can be trimmed down in our budget, and especially on the Board of Education side. The town is running, on a very small budget when you compare it to $102 million that the Board of Ed is financed on. So I just implore you guys to really look hard at this budget, and we have to make cuts somewhere. And if that means cutting programming, then so be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak this evening? Last call. Thank you so much. We're going to move on right now to old business. Item A, action on the library presentation.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move the library construction project to the planning and zoning for the 824 approval.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's site plan approval.
Okay.
Yeah. 824 was part of the bonding process, it's site plan approval.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So amend that to the site plan approval.
Very good. So we have a motion. Do we have?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
We have a second. Open for discussion? Madam Clerk, would you, I'm sorry, Jack, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess I'm just, we're continuing to move this forward, this project. And I know that when we spoke, we've listened to residents, that reached out to us or have come to the council meeting and they spoke on this. And again, when we knocked on doors, all of us, we presented an idea, a project, and I get inflation has hit us and we're up against tough times. But to move forward, spending this money in a sizable amount and not re-listening, having hearings, and try to maybe put it back out to referendum, the worst that will happen, it'll fail. I don't want to see increased spending, but at the same time, I don't want to see a project done the wrong way. So the best thing to do is let the voters decide. I get it that we're all elected to make these decisions at the same time, but again, we've been reached out by many residents of, again, the costs in the town, the project that they thought was going to happen, and we still, as a council, haven't taken a stance on what we want to see. And I think it is important that we take a stance and not just continuing, again, let's do the cost estimating, let's do this. Before you know it, it's going to be the red ribbon, that we're going to open the library, and then everybody's going to go, oh, we got an ADA compliant library, and that's all we really got for 17-point-something million. So I'm just really concerned that, again, we're not getting enough feedback from the residents, and I think the right thing to do is put this back out for the voters to decide if we move forward with the decrease in size, or, again, what we do from there. But I just don't think spending this amount of money to not get what we originally, sold to the community is the right thing to do.
Anyone else?
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Do you think we should, are you suggesting that we go back to referendum for more money, Jack?
Well, I think we have a discussion and maybe have a public hearing of what the residents, want to do. I get, we're trying to watch the cost escalations. You had the consultants say that they were hoping that a recession would be here. So again, I know that there's concerns on the project continuing to go up, but to rush any project and then us talk about, potential for additions down the road, we already are starting this wrong. And I don't think there's anybody that's ever built a house saying, you know what, I'm going to go buy a piece of land, I'm going to design it and all that, and you know what, things are kind of going above budget, I'm going to build something smaller, and then I'll do an addition later. An addition square footage, we looked at the numbers here. the square footage, it's mainly knocking it down, the site work, and so forth. So I feel that, again, we owe it to the residents that we're up against, a difficult position here, but let them make that decision because they did not see this project, going over budget, I guess, and the project being reduced to stay within the budget. So I don't have the right answer, but again, we've heard from residents that have come and spoke.
Yeah.
But I think we need more input from the residents before we continue to spend money on this project. And I just see that happening, that we just keep moving forward slowly towards the red ribbon cutting.
Okay, so then, Madam Chair, here's my perspective on this, on this scenario, because I've heard a lot about this, and I appreciate exactly everything you're saying, Jack, I can appreciate that. My feeling, however, is that we as a council also have to take responsibility for what we've put forward. We as a council agreed to put a $17 million referendum in front of the voters, and we put a referendum in front of the voters based on the information that the former librarian had put out there and had done a feasibility study. The former librarian worked with an outside consultant, did the best that they could to put together a proposal. We all voted on a $17 million based on the ex-librarian's recommendation. We put that forward. We sent it to referendum. The voters have already voted, and they voted overwhelming that they wanted a $17 million building. Nowhere on the referendum ballot did it say anything other than to demolish the existing building and build a new $17 million building. I think we owe it to the residents who voted on that to deliver that, number one. Number two, I would say that there's been many, many public hearings, Madam Chair, many public hearings, dozens, between town council and also between, Board of Finance before it went to referendum, the referendum, and then now the building committee meetings. We've had many, 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 every single building committee is held in public. There's a public communications, Mr. Morelli and the rest of the building committee have, where somebody can come out and speak each and every time and can offer opinions on this. I would say that, we have had handfuls of people who have come out here and there, and they've come out in both sides. Some people saying that, that they'd like to spend a little more, and some people saying, hey, they don't want to spend even the $17 million, and some people saying, deliver the $17 million. So, I really think that between us having to be responsible, we put forward $17 million. The residents said, give us $17 million. They voted overwhelmingly for it. I would ask, how many times will we go back for a referendum and ask the voters how much they want to spend? How many times will we do that? Because what happens when we go to 18 million or 19 million? Are we going to then, we going to have another referendum on the referendum on the referendum? At some point, the voters voted. It was a strong vote. We got a lot of people saying they wanted a library. We are going to build an excellent library for $17 million. I am confident of that. I'm confident of the work that the building committee's doing, Jim and the rest of the team, and Mark and staff. And my recommendation is we push this forward and we do that. We heard a great presentation from the professionals who came out today, who gave, they've gone over this ad nauseum, and we heard that there's a high degree of confidence that we will be at or very close to the budget. So I think we have to deliver what we said we were going to deliver.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Okay, we're not going to go back and
No,
forth debate.
but again,
though.
this is
But yes,
this
please.
is a very important discussion, Madam Chair.
Yes, it is.
So with that being stated, Paul, I get where you're coming from. I actually served on the planning committee, and there was multiple, info sessions for residents to come out and speak. And there was a time that the chairperson at the time gave us a dollar amount, said, build a library for $12 million. We went to our consultants at the time, and we said, we just can't make it happen what the needs of the community was. So if you look at what the $12 million project would have been, is what we're going to get hit with a $17 million based on inflation. So we already knew that a $12 million library was not feasible at that time based on the needs that were needed by the community's input. I'm telling you that I've served on that planning committee. I've listened to residents that were in favor or against it, and I'm not for spending more money either, but this is a very tough decision, and we could have put this out to referendum already months ago. We put out a referendum for $4 million for a golf course for the building rights. So I don't think that we're doing the right thing by just continuing to move this forward without getting the residents' input on, again, doing the project for what it is and not just a dollar amount. I get what you're saying with the referendum, but that's like fine print. There was an idea that was sold to the residents at the same time. The state pulled out their $1 million grant because they realized that this isn't going to meet the needs of our community. And it just shows that this project is going in the wrong direction. We're going to get a new library, but it's not going to meet the needs of our community.
Yeah, and you know, Madam Chair, I completely understand what the councilperson is saying. We did, however, all sit here and agree on 17 million. And I want to say, you know, it was, you know, in the newspaper recently from, I believe it was the Democratic chair, who was concerned about debt service and spending in town. And one of the things that we're in charge of is making sure that we manage our finances in town. And so we have to be really careful because, you know, we have to educate the community as well on what it is that we see from a financial perspective with respect to our budgets, our debt service. We have this library in front of us. We had the superintendent who's also come forward and said they want to renovate 2 schools and close a school. That's going to cost, you know, I'm guessing anywhere from 50 to 100, maybe more than 100 million. That is going to be significant debt service. We have sports fields that they want to redo. That's debt service. We have to look at our debt service as well, and also not just blindly throw things to our residents, but give them guidance as to what we think they will be able to afford and what we as a board feel is going to be appropriate. Because, you know, we can't just spend. We have to take the time. We have to make sure we plan, we look at it. We all agreed on 17 million and thought that 17 million is something that we could work with in the debt service. I think we have to be diligent with that.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question for the town
Wait a
manager
minute,
on
Chris
the?
had his hands up
I'm
there.
sorry, Chris, do you mind?
Please.
Go ahead,
Just a
go ahead,
quick-
and then I'll.
So Mark, the library is not, that's debt service in another year or two, right?
Yes, in our current debt program, we're going out to bonding this probably April-ish. Part of that's going to be for the library already, yes.
Right, so that'll impact the budget next year or the year after?
It's going to, the budget we're talking about right now, it's going to impact that part of it.
Okay.
But it's over several different years. Obviously, you don't bond
Not
it
going
all
to
in
bond
one
all
year.
of it, right?
Could I just ask a question, Mark? So I just want to make sure I have, where we stand right now, we are dealing with was it 6.8 increase?
6.66.
6.66. Yeah, well,
I'll go with 6.6 then, forget the third.
okay. So right now, we are right now looking at a 6.6 increase in our budget if we do nothing else. Is that correct?
If it's approved as is, it's 6.6 and a decimal after that.
That's all I wanted to put on the record. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
All right. I agree. I don't want to go back and forth, but I wasn't even going to speak, but in response to what Paul just said, I want to be clear. The suggestion has been, and there's a big difference between the operating budget and a project like this, is to give the choice back to the residents, because it is it could be what's that expression? Pound wise and penny foolish, right? Because if we are looking, I'm not saying we are, if we do need to expand in future years and you go back out, then it could become more costly. Months ago, when I first suggested something like this, I served on the middle school building committee, and I know we had no choice but to go back to referendum because things did change from the time it was originally approved. There were changes similar to what's happening now, and we found new information. We went back to the voters to give them the choice. That's what's being suggested. No one's saying spend. No, it's just give the voters the opportunity to decide on a project that's for the whole community. That's the point.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'd like to move the motion. I think we've all heard it. And so, Madam Clerk, is there anyone else who wants to say anything? I just want to be very clear before you start. My own statement is, we are facing a huge increase in this budget. it's coming down to whether we have the courage or not to do what we need to do. We cannot kill our residents with a crazy budget. So I'm going to move the motion. All right, last words? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? The motion is to approve, moving this,
Site plan.
what is that?
The site plan.
The site plan to planning and zoning, yeah. I was
Approve the
getting there.
plan and move it to Planning and Zoning Commission for site plan.
Very good, okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
DiPaolo,
No.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
No.
Perry? No.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your comments. I want to thank
Thank you, gentlemen.
our professional staff, thank you so much, and our volunteer staff with the building committee, thank you so much. Okay, let's move on. Action on the neglected cemetery resolution.
Madam
So
Chair,
moved, Madam Chair?
Okay.
I'll second.
And Val, will you, Val made the motion, and you're seconding it, correct? Okay, let's get a roll call on this as well.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Very much so, yes.
Triano.
Yes. New business, tax refunds?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packet.
Second.
I'm going to have Bill second it. You already seconded something. Very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Appointments, Building Board of Appeals, one member, 5-year term expiring 2027.
Madam Chair, I'd like to put forth the name of Vincenzo Infanti of 60 Deer Run, Plantsville. He's a former Bristol police officer and currently owns Lion's Den Coffee. And I'm very confident as a business owner and someone who's dealt with build-outs that he'll have some common sense application to our building code in the event of an appeal.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Any other well, it's our nomination. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Senior Citizen Commission, we have the names of Elliot Colasanto and Mr. White.
I'll make a motion to appoint Elliot
Reappoint.
reappoint Elliot Colasanto and Mark White.
And there is one more person. Can I have a table on that,
Can,
please?
Madam Chair,
before
before
we
you
table,
Oh.
we have a name if there's
Okay,
only two Democrats.
Okay, so let's do one at a time. We have Mr. Colasanto up, and we have a second. Are there any other,
And I'll withdraw Mr. Mark White from the
Mr.
from
Mark
my,
White, that's
original.
Mark, yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's just do Elliot first. We have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor for Elliot Colasanto signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. The second person that's up is Mr. Mark White. He's served on the Senior Citizen Commission for many years. He's been a volunteer for a long time. Is there anyone else being nominated?
Well, do you want to nominate him?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
Paul-
re-put
And
up
I'll,
Mark
and I'll
White.
second that nomination.
second. Okay, very
Okay.
good, thank you. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. The third name is also up for a reappointment. However, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're waiting for this resignation letter on this one, right?
Yes,
So we're gonna
I
just
spoke to
I'm gonna-
Mrs. Prohl,
I'll
and
motion
she
Second
is
for
going to
motion.
send.
But
You had
there's
asked
no
if we could-
resignation needed. Her term's up.
Right, but it's on the list.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
Oh, it says expires March 2026.
yeah, so, but before we can fill
Oh.
it, the person has to
No,
resign.
The new term would
Yeah,
expire March
the
2026.
term expired. We
Oh, I
always
see.
list the name of the people who are actually expiring.
I see.
Not the people. I'm sorry, the term is actually expiring, so.
So there's no reason, there's no resignation letter.
You don't need a
needed.
resignation letter, but if
Right.
they're waiting to have her, ways which wants to run or not, that's a different issue.
I'm just going to remove my motion
Yeah,
table
okay.
so we can talk about it.
All right.
Okay.
Will never expire.
So,
So, Madam Chair, we're just asking that we have a name of someone, if you would consider, there's only 2 Dems on that, it's a 9-person commission, there's only 2 Dems, if you would consider putting a Dem there. So we have a name of someone who's willing to serve. It's your appointment, it's a council
Yes.
chair appointment.
so what is,
So it's not, this isn't even a town council
No,
appointment. This is your
I know
personal
the ball
appointment.
was rolling so fast here, but
Oh,
it's
I'm
actually a
sorry.
council chair appointment. It's just your appointment,
I
Madam
see.
Chair.
I'm not ready to move on it yet. If you want us to give us the name, we can talk about it a little bit, but I'm not ready to move on it because I've spoken to Mrs. Prohl. She would be normally reappointed. She's a great woman and has given so many years of her life to service. However, she's not feeling well right now, and she said to give her a day or so to hand in her resignation, and then we can proceed. So I'm going to not make any designation at this point in time, and we will continue it until next time.
We'll treat that as a table because it's your appointment. You can
Yes.
table it if you wish.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure the person that you have is very good also, but we're going to wait on that. Okay, very good. So our next item is item number 3, Fair Rent Commission alternate. Do you have a name?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Good.
We, as you know, we need to have someone that's actually a renter as well. So we'd like to put forward the name of Stacy Dolan. She served on the Historical Society Board and the Parking Commission for the town, and has been a renter for 20 years.
Okay, very good.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other suggestions? It is a Democratic seat. So hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good, thank you so much. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
I thought so. Thank you,
Have a good
everybody.
trip, Mark.
Please be, yeah, have a good trip, Mark, and
I don't think left field for the Yankees is still open, but we'll see what happens.